It's more that top team roster expansion.
Are now the 26th and 27th players on the Major League roster, and they have value to Major League teams.
Major League minimum salary for those guys to be in the Major Leagues is very high. So those guys that are now they're on the Major League roster making a lot more money.
Mac がスカウト How many years スカウト
2011 was my first year.
13? 12?
Yeah,
13?
14.
シュールもっと長いね
22?
22
21 or 22 years, yeah.
カントリールーキーボール
Baby, the baby.
3? 2?
2020. First year, yeah. So, yeah.
Fourth
year.
Now four, yeah.
僕の YouTube でなんかいろんなこうコメントを来てたまにこう見るんだけど、外国人選手のそのなんで選手が取れないのとか、特にポジションプレーヤーカープの場合って言われるんだけど、そのスカウティングの難しさっていうのをちょっと聞いていきたいね。
Okay, I'll start because I've been scouting the longest. I started in 2003, and every year I've been scouting, it's been getting a little harder to find good foreigners. That's been a natural progression throughout the years, and it's just getting harder and harder and harder. There's many reasons, and we've all discussed it to prepare for this, but it's not just recently. It's been a slow progression, and there's been some changes in Major League Baseball that have really accelerated the issue to where it's making it almost impossible to find Tuffy Rhodes type players, Roberto Pettagini type players, guys that were Alex Cabrera type players, even Eldred or McLean type players that would come in and be in one of the leaders of batting average and home runs. So it's a very complicated answer with lots of reasons.
まあ今度はマックに質問だけど、今の話でその理由っていうのは何なんですか？だからアメリカが DH になったとか打てるそのディフェンスはダメでも打つのはすごいよっていう選手、まあ、守るポジションがファーストしかとか外野の一つしか守れないっていう人たちがやっぱりこうキープされちゃうのか、それともまた野球の質なのか。
Well, we've discussed too, the Major League Baseball has added a couple roster spots now too, and also a DH in both leagues. So that's taking, I mean, geez, what, 60 players that normally maybe we can look at, and it's just shrunk our prospects. I feel like that's a huge part. We used to come with more guys, rating-wise, higher, and now it's diminished. Now I feel like many players are very, very similar. And don't get me started about the mechanics of the U.S. base hitting.
今ロースター40 or 60?
Well, active.
Major roster.
Major League Ichigun roster is maybe 27 now or 26.
28 now, but 26 during the season.
Before it used to be 24.
In the bench in the game.
Correct, yes.
で入れ替えはどうなんだろう。40人40面ロースターっていうやつがあるので、40人じゃないとシーズンは40人の人しかメジャーリーグにゲームに出れないんで。
Yeah, correct. It's more that top team roster expansion. The 40-man doesn't really affect us, like Shirley said.
40人枠に入ったらこちらもちょっと。
It's that extra player that you can carry on the bench now that used to be our guy.
It's 2 spots, right?
Right.
There's 2 extra spots. Right?
Like when Brad and I were in the minor leagues, we were that guy. We were that 26th, 27th guy that wasn't on the team but close. Now that Brad or me is on the team and getting an opportunity.
だから各チーム2人キープされるってことは、 日本の各チームが狙ってる30球団から60人ぐらいが自分たちの狙ってるやつの中で60人ぐらいの人たちがあいつもダメなのかあいつもダメなのかっていうのがあるってことだよね。
Is that right? The best 60 players that we would have normally 10 years ago, we would have looked at, they're no longer available.
What I noticed about those two players, it's like myself or Mac, you're seeing those players get a chance to play in the majors, and they're doing well. They're playing well. Now they have an opportunity. So those typically are guys that would succeed here also. They're good players that are kind of stuck in minor leagues. So now the quality of players is very high, but those guys are now, there's no way they're going to leave those major league teams. They're stuck there, which is good for them, but bad for us.
ってことは、例えばメジャーリーグのチーム事情によって同じポジションだから俺はこのチームにいたら出れないからゲーム出たいし金稼ぎたいから俺日本でこういうオファー行くんだったら行くっていう話は実際にあり得る話だよねって。
I mean, now we talked about earlier is the major league minimum salary for those guys to be in the major leagues is very high. So those guys that are now they're on the major league roster making a lot more money. So that plays a factor that they're happy now to be in that position. I think so. Would make it harder for them to want to leave. I think.
要するにメジャーリーグのチームももう昔みたいにどうですかって変だけど囲ってしまうってことなのかな、キープしておきたいっていうことなのかな。
Yeah, there's been, if I can answer, there's been recent changes between the Players Association and Major League Baseball. So several years ago, they lowered the amount of players you can draft to 20 rounds. It used to be over 50. They also eliminated about 20% of the minor league baseball teams. So there used to be 150 or 180 minor league Nigun, AAA, AA, single A teams. They eliminated about 45 teams. So there are far fewer players in total to choose from now. And they're also the players at the top, those 4A, we like to call them 4A players. The 4A players are the ones that we used to get, Tuffy Rhodes, Vladimir Valentin, Eldred, McLean, Tuffy Rhodes, the superstars. Those 4A players now, when we were just talking about, are now the 26th and 27th players on the Major League roster, and they have value to Major League teams, and they keep them. And those players want to stay because they're making $800,000. They don't want to go to Japan for $800,000. They want to stay in the major leagues. So that makes it extremely difficult for us to keep the players, to find the players. The players we were looking at before don't exist anymore. And that is not even talking about the difference that Mac and Brad can talk about, the difference in the mechanics that they're now teaching in major leagues that make it even more difficult for players to make the adjustment to Japan.
今の話の修理が言ってくれたやっぱりサラリーが80万ドルで大体ほぼ1億円ちょっと超えるのかなってことはそれは最低賃金っていう表現でいいのかな。
No, it's not guaranteed, but the players see that. Before, when I was playing, the minimum was 100,000. So players like me, if I played in the major leagues, I would only get $100,000 if I had to play all year. But I could go to Japan and make $500,000. I'm going to go, right? When these two were playing, the minimum was about $500,000 or $600,000. So it made it more difficult because Japan was not paying 2 or 3, 4, 5 million to new players. So they still were thinking, wow, I can make $500,000 if I stay here and play in the major leagues and chase my dream. But it's coming now, it's getting close to $1 million, and the players are just more likely to want to stay in Japan. in the United States, and try to make that team. So now there's 2 more players that are making that big money, and even the minor league players make a lot more money. The life in the minor league now, the minor league players used to be treated poorly compared to now. It's much easier to play in the minor leagues now, and they get paid more in the minor leagues in the Major League Baseball.
簡単に言うと、向こうで大体1億円近くもらってる人が日本で1億5000万円でこっちに来て、まあオプションはあるとしても1億円が1億5000万ぐらいだったら、いやーそれだったら僕はアメリカで野球しますっていうことだよね。で修理がいいでそれが1億円が3億円4億円になってくると、ちょっと日本に行ってやってみようかっていう認識でいいのかな。
But it's tough to pay someone that kind of money for you don't know how they'll perform. They haven't proven, not a non-proven player, you know. But to me, I experienced those 2 roster spots is definitely the main reason, because when I started scouting, they didn't have that. It was the first year or second year that they had that happen, and I watched the group of really, really good candidates go from like a big group to like smaller and smaller over these last 4 years, you know. So I saw it firsthand from experience on that.
On one little note there, they also, what goes into the psyche or psychology of a player's decision to come over is also service time and pension in the big leagues. So if they feel like they can get more service time, and I mean we can't compete with that, so it's retirement.
Big benefits.
これはでも面白い話だね。
Now it's all run by people who didn't play baseball in the major leagues. They may have played baseball at a high level, but they're very highly educated people.
There's not hitters anymore per se. There's swingers, guys that just swing.
It's hard to know if either way we can adjust to the other side, the other league. But in general, there is a separation between the pitchers and hitters in both leagues, Major League and Japanese baseball, right now. But eventually they will catch up, I think.
カントリー、素晴らしいコメントですね。素晴らしい。